Roughly 31,108,077 people live in Afghanistan. About 99% of the population is Muslim. In an effort for increased order, a controlling Muslim group arose from the years 1994 to 2001, going by the name Taliban. But sometimes, order goes just too far. A powerful group of fundamentalists, called the Taliban in the Middle East, restricted many basic rights of the Afghan people through forceful leadership. The origins of the Taliban trace back to Afghanistan's civil war. Due to this war, many Afghan children became orphan refugees living in Iran and Pakistan. Growing up without knowing their parents or Afghanistan, these children were raised in Pakistan madrasas, or Islamic religious schools, and encouraged to participate in military efforts against Afghanistan. Other times, poor parents sent their children to madrasas, as this was the only way for their children to receive an education. There were also some sons of wealthy men. These youth were taught to hate and want to restore Afghanistan to its people almost from the time that they were born. The Taliban was organized due to a mullah, which is a wise scholar specializing in Islamic law, named Muhammad Omar. In 1994, 3 girls were raped by a powerful leader. The local people turned to Muhammad Omar, who was respected, for help. He and some of his students executed the criminal. He became even more famed and respected through other similar acts. This resulted in the formation of the Taliban to instill order. The origin of the name chosen for their group is plain. Talib is the Afghan word for student, which at the time most of them were. Originally, according to Ahmed Rashid, author of the book Taliban, the goals of the Taliban were to, quote, restore peace, disarm the population, enforce Sharia law, and defend the integrity and Islamic character of Afghanistan, end of quote. Although, in the end, most could argue the Taliban's ideals quickly changed for the worse. At first, many women supported the Taliban. In some cases, beginning in Swat Valley where first broadcasted, this was due to Mullah Fazlollah, or Mullah Radio for short. Mullah Fazlollah conducted popular radio broadcasts, demanding stricter interpretation of Islam religious texts. Many women agreed with his ideas, and some women made donations of money and other items of value, such as their gold wedding bangles, angering their husbands. Though at first the Taliban's beliefs and ideals could be considered humane, these original beliefs translated to something much harsher. Through the Taliban, women's rights were especially restricted. Tens of thousands of women were restricted to their own homes, not to be seen by other men, and to observe purdah. Purdah is the Islamic practice involving a type of clothing called a burqa. This is a garment that covers a woman from head to toe, with a grid-like cutout for the eyes to see through. The burqa is known to be extremely uncomfortable, locking in heat like an oven.
Usually, girls cover their faces, especially in Pashtun society. It does not only mean like you cover your face, but it means you cover your identity, you cover yourself, your inner self.
As well as having restrictions on the clothing they wore, women could also not wear nail polish. If seen wearing nail polish of any kind, a member of the Taliban might cut the polished fingers off. According to the Taliban, women were not permitted to have photos taken of them. Emma Benino, a European Commissioner for Humanitarian Aid, was visiting in Afghanistan when some of her group was found by the Taliban taking pictures of Afghan women. Benina was held by the Taliban for hours. Education under the Taliban was an infuriating concern for many Afghan people. While once education was open to women and girls, under the Taliban, if you were not under the age of 8, you could not be a girl and attend school. As it was, even if you were female under the age of 8, you would only go to school to study the Quran and nothing else. After the age of 8, attaining an education was banned for females. For males, education was allowed. At first, many private schools ignored the ban on women's education. They stayed open still, although in fear of the Taliban. Girls attending school under the Taliban would not wear their normal school uniforms, but normal clothes to disguise their intentions and destination. Under the Taliban, women's public baths, called hammams, were closed down. If a woman wanted to go outside of her home, she was expected, and it was enforced, to have a close male relative accompany her, even if it was her 4-year-old nephew. Women banned from working presented a difficult problem. Women were also not allowed to be treated by male healthcare practitioners. Secret, underground hospitals were created. Other limitations included taxi drivers not being permitted to carry female passengers, male shopkeepers not allowed to sell things to women. This was before women were restricted to their own homes. And children were not allowed to fly kites or play games in the streets, and teachers were not allowed to teach English lessons. The Taliban's limitations introduced a new form of violence called gender apartheid. If you broke a rule the Taliban had set, punishments were severe and brutal, meant to teach a lesson. Public floggings and beatings were a common punishment inflicted on those who disobeyed. If found guilty of some types of adultery, being stoned to death was the appropriate punishment. As can be expected from such stringent rule, many Afghan people did not welcome the Taliban for long. Some people soon came to both fear and dislike the Taliban, even protesting against them. A lot of people around the globe agreed that the Taliban restricted Afghan rights and must be brought down. A description of rightful liberty was well represented by Thomas Jefferson. Quote, "Rightful liberty is unobstructed action according to our will within limits drawn around us by the equal rights of others. I do not add within the limits of the law, because law is often but the tyrant's will, and always so when it violates the rights of the individual." Thomas Jefferson. Rise of the Taliban. Afghan rights restricted.